Good evening, and welcome to the January 2015 meeting of the Bella Vista City Council. My name is Peter Christie. I'm the newly elected mayor. There are some other people that I'd like to introduce as well. John Flynn has joined us. He is the newly elected alderman for Ward 1. We have Larry Wilson, who has returned to join us, having been successfully elected, and Frank Anderson, who is the alderman for Ward 2. And on my right, your left, is Wayne Jertson, who is our new city clerk. I might add that this is the last live broadcast that we will be doing of the City Council. Effective February the 23rd, which would be our next normal meeting, we are going to host it at the American Legion at the corner of Kingsland and Highway 71. And the reason for doing it is twofold. One, so we have a larger space in which to invite all of our residents, and second was more of an ADA issue, so there isn't as much to possibly trip over. So we hope that you'll continue to join us at that new venue. So having called it to order, I would ask that you stand and join me in the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and Pastor Brian Finks of the Highland Methodist Church will lead us in the invocation.
Let's pray. O Lord God, creator of the universe, blessed art thou. You have blessed us with so much in this life. Lord, we thank you so much for this community that you have given us, that you've called many of us to come and be part of. And Lord, what a blessing it is. Father, we just ask that tonight that you'd be with everybody who is gathered here, particularly our city council, as they gather to make some decisions and to set some paths and make those decisions that are going to affect every one of us in this community. Lord, I ask for wisdom, clarity of thought, courage, grace, and mercy. Come, Holy Spirit, fill this room and all of our leaders and this community with the love that you have bestowed upon us, that we might truly be a great community, embracing the good life. In the name of Jesus I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, could we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Alderman Anderson?
Here.
Alderman Flynn?
Here.
Alderman King?
Here.
Alderman Morgan?
Here.
Alderman Wozniak?
Here.
Alderman Wilson?
Here.
6-0, all present.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizen input. I'm going to ask that you keep to 3 minutes, please. The first is Mr. Modisette.
Hi, my name is Mike Modisette. I live at 6 Cashin Lane, and I'm talking about the rezoning issue that's coming up on Forest Hills. Before I begin, I'd like to thank many of you here. This is the third hearing for this, and 2 of you have actually come out to my residence to take a look at what that's going to look like. Some of you, like Larry Wilson, is my alderman. We actually talked about some of the dangers of spot zoning and different things, and I talked to Becky at the firehouse. So I've had an opportunity to talk to several of you on this, and I appreciate the time that you spent with me. And one of the other things that our neighbors know is that one of the things that has changed here is moving towards and bringing in business into the community. It's something that was started previously, and you're extending it out, and we understand the importance of the revenue. So from where we're going, we understand some of what's getting ready to happen here. But what's happening here, one of the things I want to talk about is when I moved in, this piece of property we're talking about was residential. And when I asked, is there any risk of this moving off of residential, I was assured, no, we're not a business community. This will always be residential, what you see. And I actually have photos, which a long time ago, but you can see what it looked like when I moved in. And if that makes any interest, I can share that with you. The new owner, it was rezoned, he actually purchased it as zoned property, he thought. And then when it came back, it got dezoned back to residential, and that's driving this again. So one of the things that's happening is as we're making this move and these adjustments are coming in, I want to make sure that we're not going so fast that as we move from a residential community that we're all proud and came into to one that's bringing in business that we can share together and with the revenue, we're doing it smartly and in a proper way. We want to make sure that the ordinances that weren't there before, things like dark skies, or in this case, I can see the corridor being opened up where you're trying to bring business in and it's not planned right now. What they're actually doing is just first going through and rezoning something to see what it's at, and then later we're going to figure out what it's going to be used for. Makes the neighbors and everybody very concerned. With no ordinances like dark skies and stuff, you can completely change a neighborhood. So where you used to live, there's nothing guaranteeing that that's what it's going to look like in the future. You don't know what this property is going to be used for. So there's a couple of things that I think are important, and one is one that Chris brought up here. There's this planned zoning districts where you can actually say, we want to change this into a business zone, but we want to work with the community. We don't want people to be nervous. We want to see what it's going to look like. You're not allowed to do that today because of the way the structure is set. So if you follow the bylaws the way it is today, because it was not thought about being a business community, you could overpower this and change what a resident, I've lived here for 17 years, it could look completely different. So I'm not opposed to trying to bring in more business and get the revenue because there's a lot of things, the ped parks and other things that are going on that's going to need this revenue. But what I don't want to do is take people that have lived here and love this community and change what it looks like to them. So I guess what I'm standing in front of you is to realize the neighbors understand where we're going. We want to be a part of helping business as they move in, but we want to do it smart. And one of the things that's come up is what Chris has got with this planned zoning district. It's been to the commissioners' planning meetings twice now. It's very well received, but it's not going to have a chance to get through before we have this meeting. This is the third reading on the rezoning tonight. What I'd really like to ask is a couple of things. But the biggest thing right now is if we could actually table this third one for today. I asked Jason if there was anything that prevented that from legality or whatever. No, you can table anything at any time. So we have a chance to see where Chris's planned zoning is. I would like us to say as we go into the future, the members that are here, I think you want to work with us and at the same time help business. The only way I know how to do this with any certainty is what Chris is proposing, but I need time for that to come through. So I'd like to advocate tabling this third discussion tonight until Chris had a chance to see if it's going to pass or if it won't pass. Because if it can pass, then the neighbors will know what it's going to be used for, what it's going to look like, where we're going to go. So I'm trying to see if this could be an opportunity to make sure the ordinances of the businesses coming in are aligned to the members of the community that live there and make this a town that we all want to live in, not just for ourselves, but our descendants and our children and on and on and on. You have an opportunity to change this where we all win together. But if we go really fast right now and just change it, the only other opportunity I have is on what is it going to be used for later, and so we'll have to fight it a second time. So I'd like to see if we could slow up and actually work and let Chris see if that goes through. If it fails, then we can bring it back up and use the current method. But if for some reason it does, I think it'll give the homeowners an opportunity to participate in where it's going to go and take a lot of the fear out. So I'm probably at 3 minutes, but thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Modisette. Mr. Rogest.
I am Ralph August, and I live 14 Cashin Lane, and I'm Mike's neighbor. And again, opposing the rezoning of this property. I think it's 1680 Forest Hills Drive. And one of the things that I'd just like to, I think Mike was explicit and he was very eloquent in what he had to say. And I think he expressed everything that I would want to say. Maybe not as, I couldn't say it as well. But one thing that I do want to mention is I was a resident of Arizona for a long time before moving to Bella Vista. We moved here because of the beauty of the area and because of the solitude and the properties that we bought. And but I'm reminded of the town of Flagstaff in Arizona, which is what I would call a main street town. And all of the businesses grew up on Route 66. Of course, it developed, back into the 1800s. But I see Bella Vista going in much that same direction as being a Main Street town. I see all of the businesses as being developed on Forest Hills and on Lancashire, and it's without really planning in areas and moving them off of Main Street. If you've ever been to Flagstaff, Arizona, it takes you a tremendous amount of time to drive through the main street, simply because all the businesses are along what used to be Route 66. And it was just poor planning, but of course it developed from the 1800s and just developed. And I'm afraid that that's kind of what's going on here, perhaps, and I would caution the city of Bella Vista to follow in that path. I think it'd be very, very wise to do as Mike said, slow it down. Right behind the firehouse area, I looked at it on Google Maps. There's a huge area there, many, many acres, undeveloped, and I thought, well, why couldn't that be zoned as commercial and become a business park or a shopping mall or whatever the case may be, and it would be backed up to a cemetery and it would be behind the fire department, and there wouldn't be any effect on a community. This particular zoning is right in Mike's backyard, and I mean, it's right in Mike's backyard, and we don't know what's going to go in there. Obviously, concern for Mike and concern for our neighborhood.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Can I have 15 seconds, or am I not allowed?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
Okey-doke.
I own that property, I've already signed up to talk. Can I talk for a minute?
Sure, go ahead.
My name is Tom Frederick.
Come up to the mic,
The
please.
mic, please, sir.
My name is Tom Fredericks, and I own that piece of property. Maybe many of you don't know the story behind that piece of property. That was purchased from Cooper probably about 12 years ago, before there was a city of Bella Vista. When that was purchased from Cooper, Cooper zoned it commercial, and that's when it was purchased as commercial property. We were told we could build anything on it within reason, and that's why we bought the property as commercial property. We have a lot of money invested in that property, and all I want is what I paid for in the very beginning. I never would have bought that property if it was residential property. I have way too much money in that property to have it zoned residential. I have a lot of money in that property, and I just want what I paid for originally. That's all I'm looking for. And as far as this gentleman's comments about zoning the property behind the fire department, that's ridiculous. When you have commercial property, you want to be on a main road. It's directly across from the shopping center, Highlander Plaza. There's a body shop down the road, churches. There's a machine shop right next to the shopping center. And all I want is what I paid for. If these gentlemen want to buy the property from me, then they can zone it back to residential and let them take the hit on the money. All I want is what I paid for 12 years ago for that property. And I'll be very happy to sell it to these men, and then they can take the hit on the property, not me. Again, all I want is what I paid for, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Fredericks. I don't see anybody else, so we'll move on. Next is the approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes to approve that were in your packet. First, the December 15th. Is there any discussion?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Vote by show of hands. All in favor? Against? Carried.
6-0.
The next is the January 5th minutes. Is there any discussion?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Vote by show of hands in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. We'll move to the mayor's report. The planning continues for Fire Station Number 4 and the Streets Department Building, both of which are going to be on 279. The State of the City report will be presented at our February regular council meeting as per law. And early today, I was informed that I've been appointed to the Arkansas Municipal League's Advisory Council for Economic Development. All of you had the financial report. Any discussion?
Move that we approve. Second.
All in favor, raise hands. Against? Thank you. Okay, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read all ordinances and resolution by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Vote by show of...
Roll call.
Oh, roll call? Okay.
Okay, roll call vote. Alderman Morgan,
Yes.
Alderman Flynn,
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak,
Yes.
Alderman Anderson,
Yes.
Alderman King,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
carried 6-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to unfinished business. There is one item, and it's amending the City of Bella Vista zoning ordinance and map by rezoning certain lands known as 1680 Forest Hills Boulevard, parcel number 16-70272-002, from R1 to C2 and for other purposes. This is the third reading.
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I have a question. What is this dark skies that they were talking about? Chris, can you give us some information on that?
Dark sky.
Sounds like a stealth aircraft.
A nationwide movement whereby they attempt to protect the viewshed of the night sky by limiting lighting in both commercial and residential industrial type developments.
I can tell you, Alderman, state law already requires the use of shielded outdoor lighting.
That's what I thought. Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Anderson?
Question on planned zoning. I guess that's the first time I've heard that term to any great degree. Is there something that we need to know that's going on in the planned zoning world? And maybe I just haven't attended enough planning meetings.
They're the second Monday of the month. It's 4:30 p.m. Currently before the Planning Commission is a series of zoning code amendments that include what has been termed planned zoning district. It is an opportunity to answer a lot of the questions that were brought up to you this evening regarding this particular rezoning. When we have had rezoning decisions in the past, the question inevitably comes out by natural curiosity, what is it that's going in there? When we attempt to rezone a property, we often have to segregate land use from what the development looks like. And again, that's a natural partnership when we start talking about rezonings. The Planned Zoning District, or PZD for short, would attempt to answer those questions if an applicant chose to utilize this tool in the zoning code if it's amended into the code. It would require very specific uses delineated in a rezoning ordinance to satisfy certain portions of the code with regard to setbacks, buffering, everything we have in the zoning district code-wise would have to be addressed in a rezoning ordinance. Further with that would be a site layout and what we term a master development plan, so that a chunk of that particular land would be dedicated to whatever particular use the applicant is looking at doing. Further into that, we require architectural elevations to determine what this building looks like. All of this package becomes part of the ordinance that would be rezoning the property to this particular specific customized zoning district.
So it's basically combining zoning with the planned development, or the...
Yes, sir. It would combine, it would shorten the approval process for the developer, but it would require a lot of planning that sometimes, as is the case this evening before you, we don't know particularly the specific use or the specific type of development that would be going on this property.
And the difference between this and spot zoning is?
Spot zoning is an overused phrase in my opinion. Spot zoning is often a cry of something that is out of place. And a good example of that would be a large car dealership in the middle of a residential zone where we have typically single-family housing. In this particular instance, staff has advocated for the approval of this particular rezoning petition because it conforms to our future land use plan.
Alderman, I could add one thing to that, and what everything Chris has offered is absolutely correct. The other, I guess you could say, benefit of a planned zoning district is it accounts for things that are of mixed use. In other words, take a development that may have, say, retail on one level and maybe condos above it, where you have residential units combined with some form of commercial work. So that's sort of a trendy thing too nowadays, where you have these combined sort of uses. PZDs are very useful in that context as well. But it is basically a combined zoning and development. And whenever it's zoned PZD, it's zoned for that development. And so if that development does not occur within a given period of time, it can be set up to where it would revert to the prior zone or go to some other zone, or however the city decides to set that up.
Alderman Wozniak.
So unless I missed something, he'd have to sell the property first, and then whoever was going to develop it would have to come back and ask for the rezone. Because he doesn't know what's going in there. He just wants to sell it for the sake of selling it. And what I thought I heard you say is this is all tied together, but he doesn't have a clue what's going in there. He just wants to make it so it's more easily sold.
That is true. Whatever, again, we're segregating use from development. So Mr. Fredericks is seeking the rezone to get it properly zoned for those range of purposes that are outlined that could be, the property could be outlined, I'm sorry, one more time. Those range of uses that are outlined in the staff report, any of those uses, when you go into a C2 district, could be developed on that property should the ordinance be enacted. The development comes through the large-scale development process and would follow natural or established channels of development approvals that we have in the code at the moment.
Alderman Anderson, do you have another question?
Yeah, the timing of the planned zoning development. What is the anticipated timing that will get to City Council?
We're looking at a February agenda item for you all at your work session. The Planning Commission has already looked at this. We have been discussing it with Planning Commission since October. They've reviewed a draft in both December and January. I'm sorry, they'll be reviewing it again this coming Wednesday at the Planning Commission work session. We have advertised for a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission for February 9th.
Alderman Morgan.
Alderman Anderson answered one of my questions. My other question is, where does this piece of land fall in this larger zoning, planned zoning development?
One thing I need to point out to all of you is that the planned zoning district is an option. It is not a requirement as it's proposed. So should the rezoning ordinance in front of you be passed, whoever develops it, it could be Mr. Fredericks, it could be some other subsequent owner, or a developer that is just attempting to secure development approvals. They could go one of two paths should the PZD legislation go through. They could go the traditional route of development approval, as I mentioned to Alderman Wozniak, or they could go and choose to go through the planned zoning district. It is a choice.
Thank you, Mr. Sanderson. Oh, Alderman.
As I understand, this was originally zoned commercial by Cooper when he first developed the Bella Vista area. When was it rezoned residential?
I think what you have to understand is until the establishment of the zoning code and map in 2010, there was no zoning laid down by the city.
Well, there was no city back when Cooper sold it.
That,
That's
to
what I'm
your
saying.
point,
You just said it's commercial, you can do what you want to with it.
To your point, Cooper Communities often puts deed restrictions on land as they convey it to other owners. You and I own lots within Bella Vista that can only have single-family housing on it per the deed. So that may be what Mr. Fredericks is referring to when he says that it was zoned. But by pure terms of not having a city in place, the zoning was established in 2010 as residential.
I only asked that because I've driven by there a number of times, and the sign that was out there before said commercial next to it, on it. So you just assumed it was a commercial lot because it was between different businesses. So, all right, thank you.
Alderman Flynn.
Yeah, I had a comment as opposed to a question. I'd like to thank the people from Cash and Lane for coming and giving their opinion, and I know some people from Cash and Lane came and gave an opinion at earlier meetings. I appreciate that. We have no way of knowing what people are thinking or feeling unless they're willing to come here and tell us, and I appreciate you being so professional. I also like to thank Mr. Fredericks for giving his opinion. I drove down the street today several times, and I drove over on Cash and Lane, drove back there. And I also note that Chris Senison's department and the staff report has recommended the zoning change. But to me, just driving on the street, it's pretty obvious that this parcel is commercial, should be commercial. It just is. It's commercial, commercial, commercial on both sides of the street. Then there's this plot, and right across the street is totally commercial. The next plot past it is residential. That's true. But it just, me personally, I would never buy this lot for residential. I mean, I can't imagine who would use it if it was residential. It's just so obviously a commercial property. And I hate to disappoint people, and I know how strongly you feel when it's near your house. But the fact is, the logical place for commercial in Bella Vista is on Bella Vista Way, and it's on this street as well. And there's always, the way Bella Vista's been developed, there's always a house a block away or half a block away, virtually always. So we're either not going to have any commercial, or we're going to disappoint people once in a while. And I hate to disappoint people. And as I say, you people have been very professional, but it's pretty clear that it should be commercial in my mind.
Alderman Wozniak.
And, you know, through this process, what we asked the body shop to do as far as fencing and berms and trees, I'm sure if the time would come to pass that someone wanted to go in here, the way Chris's department works, I'm almost 99.9% sure that the same thing would happen. And in this case, because you guys have, you know, come forth with your concerns, you know, you guys get involved and, hey, would this go, would that go kind of thing.
Other discussion, Alderman King?
Just to continue with Waz's comment, I think I spoke to Mike last month, and with Chris, I know when the Moria issue came through, we, as a city and as a zoning commission or planning commission, did everything we could to make sure that that property was aesthetically pleasing and aesthetically fitting into the area. And I think it's one of the most beautiful buildings in the area, considering some of the neighboring buildings. However, the same thing, like I said, be assured that whatever business goes in there will have to meet very, very strict standards for segregation and noise and everything else that you are concerned with, and I do understand. I grew up in a metropolitan city, and you had a neighborhood that ended here, and then you had a commercial area that started right across the street, and depending on what you had there, that's what you had. There's nothing you could do about it. But here we have a little more leeway with it, and we can do a little more about development restrictions. So we thank you for your input and for your time. I appreciate it.
Other discussion? Alderman Morgan.
Mr. Senison, you mentioned that some of the residential lots, it's included in the deed what their use is for. Does this land have anything attached to the deed that indicates that it is actually commercial, like Mr. Fredericks was assured by Cooper that he was buying commercial property?
Alderman Morgan, I haven't personally examined the deed, so I cannot adequately answer your question.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Carried 6-0.
Thank you. Moving on to new business, Ordinance A, waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and authorizing the purchase of street salt and sand based on price and availability by informal price quotes. We'll start with discussion, and I'll kick it off. This ordinance is valid through the through to the end of 2015. And I might add that it does not preclude a decision to go to bid. Are there other points of discussion that the alderman would like to bring up?
Motion to approve.
Actually, I would like to entertain a motion to suspend the rules and move to third reading and final reading.
Second.
That motion needs to be made first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make the motion.
Oh.
Thank you.
No, I
Second?
forgot he was making the motion.
Second.
Second. Alderman King. Roll call vote to suspend the rules.
Okay. Alderman Wozniak,
Yes.
Alderman Anderson,
Yes.
Alderman King,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
Alderman Morgan,
Yes.
Alderman Flynn,
Yes.
6-0.
Now, further discussion about the motion itself?
Mayor, we need to go ahead and read the title one more time.
All righty, thank you. The title is Waiving the Requirements of Formal Competitive Bidding and Authorizing the Purchase of Street Salt and Sand Based on Price and Availability by Informal Price Quotes. If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance as read.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Morgan.
Okay. Wozniak,
Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Morgan,
Yes.
Alderman Flynn,
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak,
Yes.
Alderman Anderson,
Yes.
Alderman King,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. Moving on to B. Redesigning the City of Bella Vista Emergency Management Committee as the Public Safety Advisory Committee, redefining its powers, duties, and compositions, repealing ordinance of number 2008-17, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. I'll kick off the discussion. This was one that we mentioned during the work session that I have been involved in, where we are changing the scope of the Emergency Management Committee to broaden the horizons to include both safety for fire and for police. We also had a look at the ordinance. It's very outdated. It was asking for 9 members from committees and groups that actually no longer exist, such as the ambulance service, the private ambulance service that is no longer here. So I have talked to members of the committee. I have spoken with our council, and we have redrafted the verbiage and reduced the number of members from 9 to 5. I think 9 was just a bit of an unwieldy number to try and get a decision through a committee. And I'll entertain any further discussion.
I just had a question about the, how the change came out. We were going to make a change from the work session to ensure that most of the members were residents of the city.
Yes, sir, that change has been made.
We changed that, and now you have to live in the city to be on the committee.
Okay.
The change is that all members of the committee must live in Bella Vista.
Did that change anybody that was due to be on the
No.
committee?
Everybody was up.
Recommend approval.
Before you go, the inaugural meeting of this committee is scheduled for February the 11th. Therefore, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and move to third and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote to suspend the rules.
Alderman Anderson,
Yes.
Alderman King,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
Alderman Morgan,
Yes.
Alderman Flynn,
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak,
Yes.
carries 6-0.
So I'll read the ordinance again, which is redesignating the City of Bella Vista Emergency Management Committee as the Public Safety Advisory Committee, redefining its powers, duties, and compositions, repealing ordinance number 2008-17, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Need a motion to
Oh,
approve.
I'm sorry, motion.
So move.
Second.
Roll call vote now.
Okay. Alderman Morgan,
Yes.
Alderman Flynn,
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak,
Yes.
Alderman Anderson,
Yes.
Alderman King,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
carried 6-0.
On to ordinance C.
Point of order.
Mayor,
Sir,
we have an emergency clause we need to vote on separately, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
The ordinance contains an emergency clause that must be voted on separately, so a motion and second to adopt the emergency clause would be in order.
Recommend approval, emergency clause.
Second?
We voted that one already.
No, we didn't.
no, this is an emergency vote.
We did it.
2 votes in the same ordinance.
No, we voted to suspend the rules for the third
Right.
reading.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's right.
So we have a motion and we have a second.
For the emergency clause?
Adoption of the emergency clause.
Okay.
What is the emergency?
The emergency is to get this in place so that we are able to have the February 11th meeting and start planning for the future.
Thank you.
Otherwise, it'll be 3 months out.
Well, one
Or, and it wouldn't happen right away. Have 30 days. So I have a motion on the floor.
Who made the motion on that? Frank?
Anderson.
Okay.
Anderson.
In the second?
Wozniak,
Wozniak,
second.
okay. All right. Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Carries 6-0.
Emergency clause passes, it's immediately effective.
On to C. Adopting and enacting a new code for the city of Bella Vista, Arkansas, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for the violation thereof, providing for the manner of amending such code, and providing when such code and this ordinance shall become effective. This is adopting and enacting a new code for the city of Bella Vista, Arkansas. All our ordinances have finally been codified, and what that means is that they have been organized, indexed in a manner in which you can easily find each and every one of them instead of them being in a binder and you have to flip through and try and find them. So what we have to do now is go back and adopt and enact a new city code based on this codification. And so I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and move to third and final reading.
So move.
Second?
Roll call vote to suspend the rules.
Okay. Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
6-0.
This also has an emergency clause, Councilman.
Does.
Next, we have to adopt the resolution, or the ordinance.
We need to read the
So
title.
we'll read the title again. Adopting and enacting a new code for the city of Bella Vista, Arkansas, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for the violation thereof, providing for the manner of amending such code, and providing when such code and this ordinance shall become effective. Discussion?
What is the emergency?
Counselor?
We added some language to the section after the work session. We need to get this done. That's practically what the emergency is, because we've got, we can't, the language of the ordinance says, Section 7, to promptly clarify and simplify the organization of the laws of the city. And that is, I can tell you that is going to be a necessity for us very quickly, because we have code enforcement officials that we've been waiting on this to get done so we can get some citations printed up, so we can get enforcement beginning on this, and speed is needed. I can tell you that.
It would be very difficult to operate under two systems, where we had a code of ordinances that people are reading and looking at, but they're not effective for 90 more days. We're still passing ordinances that are going to change things. To work under two systems like that is next to ridiculous. So we need to get it done as soon as possible.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes, but we've already voted that it would become effective in 30 days. Didn't we just do that?
No.
Our ordinances become,
We waived the 3 readings, which means it would become effective in 30 days. Is that?
No.
No? Well, what did we just vote on then? Please.
You voted
Please
to-
explain that to me.
Okay. Suspending the rules to waive readings has nothing to do with the effective date of the ordinance. It just brings to a conclusion your decision as to whether it's going to pass faster. If you had gone with regular order, we would have had first reading this month, second reading next month, third and final reading the next month, and if it were adopted, then it would be 30 days after that, it would become effective. So you're talking about 120 days. Since we have waived, or since the proposal was to suspend the rules and proceed to third and final reading tonight, the ordinance is read the third time by title. It will be voted on tonight. If you do not enact the emergency clause, it will still take effect in 30 days. If you adopt the emergency
That's what I
clause
just said.
tonight, then it will become effective immediately. Suspending the rules, you could go through 3 readings over 3 months and enact an emergency clause, and it will become effective immediately at the end of the third reading. So they're technically 2 different considerations.
But didn't we just vote to suspend the second and third reading, which means if we pass this, it would become effective in 30 days?
No, those are 2 things that are totally unrelated to one another. Yes, it will become effective in 30 days, but but you suspending the rules did not change that fact. It just brought it to a final conclusion quicker.
Any further discussion?
That's clear as mud.
Okay. I want you to understand it, so I'm going to explain it again. Regular order is this. We have an ordinance that's on the agenda for consideration. We have 3 regular meetings. The state law says, and our rules say, that ordinances must be read at three different times on 3 different days. So we have 3 different regular meetings. So if you had not suspended the rules, then we've had first reading tonight, second reading in a month, third reading the next month.
But we did suspend the rules.
Let me go through my scenario. So then at that point, the proposal still has an emergency clause. So at that point, there could have been a final vote and an approval of the emergency clause, and it would have become effective immediately after the third reading, which would have been 3 months from now. You could go through the same reading process, deny the emergency clause, and it would still be another month after that before it became effective. The emergency clause has to do with when it becomes effective after you pass it. Suspending the rules and proceeding and skipping readings just means you get to decide quicker when you're going to pass it. It speeds up your calendar. So you bring it to a final resolution, and then you either adopt an emergency clause and it becomes immediately effective, or you don't, and it's still 30 days after that before it becomes effective.
Let me see if I understand the question that Becky was asking. If it's approved, it's normally then 30 days
Right.
effective. If
Without
it's
it.
approved with an emergency clause, then it's immediate.
Exactly.
I think that's what
That's right.
she was saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
But you can adopt an emergency clause without suspending the rules.
All right. Further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Motion to adopt, we need a motion.
A motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, what are we voting on?
Okay, we're voting to adopt the ordinance, then we'll vote on the emergency clause.
I thought the emergency clause was part of,
It's a separate
No, you have to
vote.
adopt.
Separate vote.
it's,
You have to adopt it first.
but it's part of the ordinance. It's-
Constitution requires a separate vote. It is included, but the Constitution requires a separate vote on the enactment of emergency clauses.
Thank you.
So shall I read it again?
No, it's been read 3 times.
Read 3 times, so now
There's
we
been a
go.
motion and a second, and now we need to call the roll on final passage of the ordinance.
Okay. Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes, please.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderman Morgan.
Does this include the emergency clause?
No.
That's a
No.
separate.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Carry 6-0.
Now there would be an order, a motion to enact the emergency clause.
Motion to enact the emergency clause.
Second.
John? Shall I read it again, or do we need to?
You don't have to read
emergency?
it.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Any further
And then-
discussion? All right, another roll call
Okay,
vote.
This is on enactment of the emergency clause.
right. Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderman Morgan.
In deference to the attorney, yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes, please.
All right. 6-0.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the last ordinance. This is an ordinance amending the City of Bella Vista zoning map by rezoning certain lands commonly known as parcel 18-09565-001 from A1 to C3 and for other purposes. This is an ordinance that is amending the City of Bella Vista zoning so that we are able to erect the new signs along the east side of 71, close to Bella Vista. And we're moving it from agricultural to central business district, which is what is required to be able to put the sign up in the first place. That's where this is coming from. So I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and move to a third and final reading.
So moved.
So move. Oh,
Second.
sorry.
Is there any
Whatever.
discussion? All right, we'll go to a roll call vote, please, sir.
This is on the motion to suspend the rules.
Right. Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
So this is an ordinance amending the City of Bella Vista zoning map by rezoning certain lands commonly known as parcel 18-09565-001 from A1 to C3 and for other purposes.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
is there any further discussion?
What's that? Okay, Wilson. Thank you.
So I'll ask for a roll call vote on the ordinance as read.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Should be Flynn. You should have said Flynn last.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
It's okay.
apologize.
This
Alderman
is going to
Flynn.
pass seven.
Yes.
You get to vote twice.
All right, we'll move on to the first resolution, which is authorizing an amendment to the City of Bella Vista Flex Plan, United Healthcare Health FSA. This resolution is required by our healthcare provider, United Healthcare, and it allows for an increase in the FSA from $2,500 to $2,550 as stipulated by law. The healthcare provider, however, does require a resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Carries 6-0.
Moving on to F, another resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Benton County, Arkansas in the amount of $10,000 for the provision of emergency medical services, ambulance services, to unincorporated portions of the county for calendar year 2015 and for other purposes. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So
I
moved.
move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Sir?
Well, I would just like to point out for the audience benefit that this is $10,000 coming in to the city of Bella Vista for providing ambulance services to areas outside the city. It's not an expenditure, it's money coming in.
And it's one that we approved last year as well. No further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Carries 6-0.
Moving on to G, resolution. City of Bella Vista appointments to the Benton County Solid Waste Management Board. There are two appointees, myself and Alderman Wozniak. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Is there further discussion? Roll call vote, sir.
All right. Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Carried 6-0.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution H, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Nunley Chevrolet for the purpose of a 2015 Chevrolet Tahoe special service vehicle through the state procurement contract for the fire department. I would entertain a motion to.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I might add that the state procurement contract is with Bale Chevrolet in Little Rock. State statute does permit us to use a local vendor, provided that they match the Bale Chev price, which Nunnally has done. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Carries 6-0.
Next resolution, I, a resolution endorsing the Northwest Arkansas Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan and adopting the individual community action plan for the city of Bella Vista as incorporated as part of the master plan.
I move we accept this.
Second,
Second.
Larry. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say I attended a couple of the meetings having to do with some of the bicycle and pedestrian path trails, and I think it has tremendous potential for the city of Bella Vista. It's a long-term project. It's going to take a lot of work and some funds, and it's going to take the cooperation of the POA and the city and all kinds of individual community groups. It has the potential to be a tremendous, tremendous plus for Bella Vista, and I'm very enthused about it. I think it's going to be a legacy project that after everyone in this room is gone, there'll be people using these trails and enjoying them.
I might add that I have maps if anybody's interested. I didn't bring them tonight. I believe Mr. Modisette has one if you'd like to see it, but I can also make sure that you get a map as well. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Carries 6-0.
Thank you. J, resolution expressing the willingness of the city of Bella Vista to utilize federal aid funds for the Mercy Way Corridor Improvements Project. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion.
Mayor, I just want to, feel like I just need to advise the council of this. By approving this resolution, you are committing the city to eventually build this bridge. Otherwise, we would have to reimburse the state for any funds that they have expended up to the point of construction. So just know that by approving this resolution, you are committing to go ahead with this bridge at a point in the future through the process. And I'm sure Chris knows all the details, but I just want to make sure you understand the implications of this.
Are there any questions for Mr. Sunnison?
I had a comment.
Sir.
I just wanted to point out, we were talking about a cost to the city of $64,000, which is 20% of the cost. The rest would come from federal, I believe. And the total is $320,000 is to make the bridge 4 lanes instead of 2, is my understanding.
That's just for the engineering study.
This is just for the engineering
Many-
study.
7, 8 figures, big
Yeah.
numbers. This is just for the engineering study.
Correct. Mr. Sunnison, do you want to take the mic, please, and just give us an overview?
Where to begin? One thing we need to keep in mind is that this is a long-term project undertaking for growth in this particular part of the world. We have experienced a lot of private investment within the last couple of years, and so we are behind the 8 ball with investing city-committed funds to this. The federal funds match that you're looking at this evening is just that. It does fund the engineering study on it. As proposed in the grant application, we had planned to expand the bridge to 4 lanes with pedestrian improvements associated with that, enlargement of the eastern segment of the bridge, or the road alignment to 4 lanes as well. Again, you've already seen some improvements on the east side of the bridge, as well as some improvements to the intersection so that traffic flows better in this area. If you have been down there at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning experiencing the school traffic, you'll understand why this improvement is needed. We are projecting that this is at least a 5-year project. As of last year's cost estimates, the total construction on this is $3.1 million. Keep in mind also that that is an 80-20 split. So as estimated from last year, it's a $600,000 hit to our pocketbooks. Jason is absolutely correct in pointing out to you that when we commence down this path, it is a commitment we take up long term. It is one of those things that we need to start programming into our long-range vision of the future as a community. I am sure that there are other needs of similar capacity that we need to be beginning in. So the federal government has said, yes, this is a worthy project, and so that is why we're looking at this resolution this evening.
Are there any questions or discussion? Sir.
And this process started months ago, did it not? 6
It
months
did.
or
It
longer?
did. We actually made another application with the same project in January of last year. Prior to that, we had an initial submittal in September of 2013. September of 2013. Given proper blessings, we'll be pursuing additional funds of this nature in the upcoming grant-making cycle. So, yeah, it's and ultimately construction could be through 2020.
In addition to widening the bridge, the section of Mercy Way from 71 up to the bridge is probably now one of our highest accident rate intersections.
It is, and I think the police chief could back me up if I can find him. It is the worst intersection for accidents that we have in the city.
Will that area be widened as well?
The grant application as provided did not provide for that particular portion of the road to be improved to larger segments, widened, if you will.
So whoever makes it up to the bridge has free right of way.
Concurrent with our application in September of 2013, we also made an application to study the Highway 71 corridor. As part of that application process, the Highway Department said, we'll take care of this. And so it is my understanding that they are proceeding with studying not only the intersections with Highway 71, but also how to funnel traffic better through that. Obviously, improvements to the south of our community may hinder some of those efforts, but I have every confidence that the Highway Department will eventually get to a resolution on that particular project.
So part of the Highway Department study is to also look at the so-called feeder streets, especially when you're turning right and going north on 71?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Carried 6-0.
K, POA City Agreement and Cost Sharing on Construction and Maintenance on Entry Signs for the city not to exceed $40,000 for construction and maintenance. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Go into discussion. I'll kick it off. You may remember at the work session, we talked about capping the maintenance. That has also been agreed upon with the POA. It's capped at $600 a month, and in your packet there is also an agreed upon hourly rate. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
$600 a month to maintain those two signs?
That is a worst-case scenario, as I understand it.
That's the cap. So we'll be charged actual cost hourly based on the Schedule A, which is in the packet.
Mm-hmm.
And however much time it takes times the number of hours. There are 4 different categories depending on whether it's a supervisor or, as you can see in there, the various jobs. And that was the proposal from the POA, and that was a way for us to get some guarantee as far as some kind of a cap.
Other discussion? Alderman?
Yes. The way the title is written, it says for the sign for the city not to exceed $40,000 for the construction and maintenance. I think the cap of $40,000 is just for the construction, and the maintenance is a separate issue.
Yes.
Is that-
Not $40,000 in maintenance. The $40,000 has no relation to maintenance.
No, but to me, it read like $40,000 was to include the maintenance, and obviously, that's not possible.
So I think what you were saying is not to exceed 40,000 for construction, comma, and
Yes.
maintenance?
Thank you.
The author's right there.
Thank you.
That's a very important comma.
It could be a very important comment. The estimates that we've received from the POA on a cost share basis, our portion of that rounds out to $37,000 and some change. $38,000 and some change. The budget that was passed in December has a line item of $40,000 from the particular account identified in the resolution. The intent is to pay for any maintenance cost in 2015 from that same line item in the budget.
Okay.
Just to assuage your concern, if I could add this, the terms of the contract govern the deal. So if they were to come back and say, oh, no, we can get $40,000 because, no, the terms of the contract govern the relationship between the POAs.
I understand that, and I am thrilled that this came in under $40,000. I was involved in that, and I am all in favor of the city moving forward with this project.
Sir?
I have one question about maintenance. We talk about routine and non-routine. Is the $600 one or the other, or a combination of both?
It is one, and did the contract not get included in the packet?
I don't
No.
see it.
No.
Well, I can't get any signal. It's the routine maintenance is the cap of $600. The other maintenance is as billed and shared 50/50 by third parties. So they would provide us with invoice and proof.
What kind of maintenance are we talking about on the signs? That's what I was curious about.
Well, number one, there's a flagpole, so there will be some maintenance in replacing the flag, and I'm hoping that the American Legion will step forward and be involved in that,
Okay.
not only in the placement of flags, but determining when they need to be replaced. But obviously, there's going to be other maintenance. If you have a lighted sign, I assume electrically and the lights maintaining.
That's kind of what I figured, but I didn't
And
know if there was anything special.
also
Sunflowers.
some landscaping.
Okay. I didn't know if there was anything particular to this sign design that required a special kind of maintenance or anything.
Well, hopefully it's low maintenance.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Further
Okay.
discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
No.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
5-1 carries.
Thank you. Moving on to the next resolution, awarding bid and authorizing the purchase of a 3,000-gallon emulsion storage tank from the Total Patcher Company in the amount of $33,691.87 for use by the Street Department. I'll entertain a vote to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
This was put out to bid in the 2015 approved budget. We had set aside $45,000 for this item, so it's come in at $11,000 plus under, which is good. If anybody has any questions, Superintendent Button is here from the Streets Department, isn't available. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Carries 6-0.
Resolution M, rescheduling February council work session date to avoid conflict with President's Day holiday. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor, may I,
Sir.
excuse me, who was the motion and the second on that last question?
The motion was Wozniak and seconded by Flynn.
Okay, we missed that, thank you.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we had a motion.
So moved on to moving the work session date.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
This resolution would move the working date from Monday, February 16th to Tuesday, February 17th in City Hall. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Carried 6-0.
Resolution N, authorizing payment of $750 as the defendant's 10% portion in full and final settlement of Kuhn versus Tomlin and Williams, U.S. District Court, WD, Arkansas, case number 14-5226-TLB. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
This is a final settlement, and our portion is 10% as defined by the Municipal League Defense Program, which covers 90%. The total settlement is $7,500.
These are two former employees. They were sued in their individual capacity. They are covered by our legal defense program, which is basically our insurance. And the league has asked us, and it's common practice that when you have employees in this situation, that the city picks up that. Our 10% of that is going to be $750. It comes with a recommendation of the Municipal League. They normally would attend and explain to you. They apologize for that. They had to be in another place today. I told them I'd be happy to talk to them. I'll talk to you. I also approve this. I think it's a good settlement, and I think we need to do this.
Any discussion or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Morgan.
Yes.
Alderman Flynn.
Yes.
Alderman Wozniak.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Carried 6-0.
Moving to the meetings and announcements, the next City Council work session will be Tuesday, February 17th at 5:30 in the City Hall Conference Room. The next regular meeting of City Council will be Monday, February 23rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Bella Vista American Legion Hall. Planning Commission work session is scheduled for Wednesday, January 28th at 4 p.m. in the City Hall Conference Room. And the Planning Commission regular meeting will be on Monday, February 9th at 6:30 p.m. Is there any further comment or new business?
Mayor, you mentioned something at the outset of the meeting about the meeting in the Legion Hall not being on live TV. You used the word live. Is it going to be on taped TV?
Yes,
or-
it's going to be taped. We've been working with our friends at the television station, and there's some equipment that they need, and that should be in place by the time we have our meeting. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Bella Vista Community TV folks for being so faithful and putting together this program for us for many, many years, and we look forward to continuing at the Legion. Thank you for the question. Any other comments, new business? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.